Hi, it's Wednesday, the 10th of November, 2021. Um, we've had some technical difficulties and we're starting 22 minutes later than normal. And that's just kind of sort of the way that the week has been. So, hello again, and thanks for joining me. It's been an interesting, busy um, week. We've been finalizing this year's holiday novella, and I've got an update for you on that in a little bit. The editing process for the next novel in the Walkerville Desire series is just underway. And I am falling in love with new characters that are showing up in a new book. It's a novel that stands outside of the Walkerville series. Honestly, I had no idea about this book. Remember the word booty that I mentioned last week? That word, when I heard that word, it just set off this whole series of things that I saw in my mind, and farmhouses and table. I mean, it just started off this whole avalanche of things, characters popping up, right? Names. So I've been writing that for the last few weeks. Kind of cool. And speaking of which, the topic that I had for this week is totally different than what I'm going to be talking about today. And I want to say that today's topic is kind of like a journal entry. And I'm feeling a little vulnerable as I share this with you. And I'm going to do it because that's what I do, right? I spend time up here in my area in my office. My writing hours are typically from 10 or 11 p.m. till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And during that time, the world is very small, very dark, you know. I can't see out my windows because it's all dark. Sometimes I'll hear a car drive by. But inside, in my world, in the middle of the night, and because I'm prone to depression, and I probably have some that season affective disorder, I always have my sun lamp on. Yeah, one of those fake sun lamps. It imitates sunlight and I believe gives me extra vitamin D to help me ward off depression. I use this lamp year round. It saved my cookies more than once. There's just something about having this sunlight. All right, it's different than a regular lamp, which I have as well. So I'm up here at night and the universe sort of opens up for me. I hear music, and sometimes I get it on YouTube. I hear rushing waterfalls cascading down a forest wall, flowing into a teal blue loch. Or I hear Snow Patrol tease about chasing cars, the most played song so far of the 21st century. And in my safe haven, my characters kind of let me into their lives. Sometimes they let me name them. They take me places I've never traveled, allow me experience feelings and events that I never thought possible. They tell me stories about their families that you couldn't make up. They make me laugh till I want to pee in my pants or weep until I don't think I can stop. And before March 2020, I have chosen to shelter here amidst my accoutrement. Besides my sun lamp, I have Ricola lemon mint cough drops, emery boards, lip gloss, Jude's green bobblehead turtle and his metal whale, and Staples graph ruled steno pads, which I've got two concurrently being used for notes. Okay. And the latest note to self that I wrote contained these 3 lines. 1, fear of success. 2, imposter syndrome. 3, purpose anxiety. So I guess when I was writing those notes, I was feeling not particularly okay that day. So these are on my desk. They help me in my writing. They're touchstones for me that I can see. I'm a visual person. I have to see my character. I have to see the scene. I have to see the sea glass on the beach, the yellow flower on the baby zucchini. And perhaps the word is imagine. Before I can listen to my characters talk, take shape, induce me into the world, I have to imagine them. I've got to see them. I've got to smell them. When the mandates to shelter in place, to practice social distancing were announced, I complied, and it really wasn't that big a deal for me. What was different was that freedom to go outside at will if I wanted to was taken away because of COVID. It was just the idea that I was being told I couldn't do something that made me want to do it. I felt like a kid learning about light sockets and the consequences of sticking my finger in it. I wanted to learn for myself what would happen if I stuck my finger in that light socket. I wanted to learn what the reality was of going outside. And I learned that the reality could be death. When the pandemic first started, I thought it was just a temporary solution to something I had no idea was as devastating as it turned out to be. I thought that, the sheltering in place would last maybe 6 weeks tops. I understand that from the most recent 2 estimates, it says that at least 3 million people have died during this pandemic that's still raging. And in my area, I'm still in my safe haven. Here, I don't write about death. I don't write about murders, although a good murder mystery is one of my favorite genres. I don't write about fantasy worlds. I don't write about wars and crimes. I do write about people, pure and simple, and love. Oh yes, love. How they find, how they lose, how they long for, how they didn't even know they wanted love. And along with love comes family, or what passes as someone's family. And it's not always that nuclear family that's so often depicted and honored as the one true family. I'm talking about extended families, blended families. I'm talking about single parent families, families with 2 mommies or 2 daddies, and families where people come together and become family regardless of their ethnicity, the families they grew up in. It's the family that they choose. Which brings me to the topic of families. AC and I have hosted Thanksgiving potlucks for most of our almost 38 years together. When we began this venture, both of us had dark hair, strong bodies, most of our teeth, the ability to do all-nighters without many consequences the next day. We have been privileged to love and to be loved by so many people who have shared deliciously and painstakingly prepared food, who have gone around the table and given us their "what I'm thankful for" self. The last one we hosted was in 2019, and then in March 2020, the whole world shut down, and we didn't have our annual Thanksgiving that year. We lost a dear friend during the pandemic who had shared many Thanksgivings with us, and I miss her very much. I feel a little duped, angry that we are where we are today, AC and I, and we've decided we can no longer share this time with people who have chosen us to be part of their families. I say duped and angry because I did not see that the pandemic, coming to claim the last 20 months of my life, has no end date. I did not get the chance to have my last Thanksgiving potluck in 2020, and maybe announce that would be my last one. Maybe we wouldn't have made that decision. But I do know that the most important reality is our physical bodies. As an acquaintance of ours called it, our timed, ripened bodies are no longer up to the task of planning, preparing, cleaning, shopping, cooking, baking, hosting, putting together to-go containers, then more cleaning and putting away. In my more facetious moments, I want to say that in the world of Walkerville, elves and fairies come in during the day and night, cleaning, preparing, etc., etc., thus allowing the residents to enjoy their holidays and each other. Actually, we all know that's behind the scenes stuff, isn't it? In reality and in books, except in certain cases such as events in Bree's Catering Kitchen, and on a much smaller scale, Fiona's Potluck and the first Christmas novella. So we've completed this year's novella. Okay, transparency time. I actually began writing this novella in August of 2020. We just didn't have the energy to do all that was needed to have a finished product. If I remember correctly, fall and winter of 2020 were a blur. Just trying to get to a grocery store by 8 a.m., that special privilege given to us as seniors, was a challenge. Wine, wine, wine. And I want to mention one more issue. The persecution of Asian Americans that took place during the summer of 2020 fostered my sheltering in place. It was one more piece of uncertainty fueled by hate during a time when I was so uncertain about my place in the world. Even now, I take each venture outside my area, outside my home, one day at a time, one event at a time. If I don't feel safe, I don't go out. Simple as that. So I'm going to end here, grateful to have had my writing during this collective uncertain time in our lives. While we didn't publish anything in 2020, I did continue to write. Walkervillians kept me sane, focused, hopeful about the future, because they know the future exists, and for a while, I wasn't so sure. So thank you for listening to my rambles. And now before I go, here's where we stand with The Worthy Christmas, this year's holiday novella. As you know, we're releasing this initially as just an ebook. The good news is that it means we don't have to wait for printing to be set up, test copies to be printed and proved, etc., etc., etc. The manuscript, already formatted for Kindle, is going to Amazon in the next day or so. So here's some inside information on their process. Amazon has a review procedure, and if necessary, they may flag something they want us to look at before release. And their turnaround time for submissions varies as well. So while we can't give you a definite date right now, we expect the story to be live on Amazon for Kindle no later than the first of the week. AC has been working like a madman at his computer, coming up for breath every few hours. Watch for big splashy notices with fireworks, marching bands. You know, the Royal Tattoo from Edinburgh is going to show up. The works as soon and everything as soon as that happens. If you're a regular Walkervillian, I think this will give you a nice snack to tide you over until the next novel is ready in the spring. And don't forget, if you know someone you think would enjoy these chats, please share my YouTube link with them. I appreciate the chance to connect with you, and I'm always hoping to meet new people. And of course, new readers are always welcome as well. There's a link to my Amazon page down below this video. I'll be back here next Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock California time. So for now, thanks for joining me. And remember, YouTube counts everything. So it means a lot if you give us a thumbs up. And it's really helpful if you subscribe to my channel by clicking that big red button. If you have questions or comments, there are links to my Facebook and Instagram and my email address. And do check the link to my Amazon page to see all my work which has been published so far. Remember, AC is archiving all these live chats. Check the playlists on my YouTube page. Plus the direct link from the next week's afternoon's get-together is there too. And I just want to mention the photo or whatever, you know, whatever it's called that AC has found this week. It's lovely. It's taken from the outside and it shows the inside glow, yellowish glow of you know, that contrast of dark night and something happening inside. Kind of like, you know, if somebody looks up and sees my window, they'll see my sun lamp on. So thank you for joining me, and see you next week.